Welcome to Spa Business Mastery. I'm Kirsten Foss, and today I have another guest joining me, another spa owner. And today we are talking about team culture. I wanted to talk about team culture because in the spa industry, having a team can sometimes feel very difficult and very problematic. And it really boils down to what is your team culture like? So today I have my guest, Miranda Bofenkamp, on with us, and she is from Minot, North Dakota, right? North Dakota? Minot, North Dakota. And your spa is called Nickel and Dodge. Thank you so much for joining me, Miranda.
Absolutely.
So first of all, I wanted to introduce kind of where you came from as a spa owner. And you did not come into the spa, you came into the spa industry from a really unusual place. Where did you come from?
Yeah, I bartended and then I worked in the oil field. So I feel like it's about as far away from the industry as you can get.
Yeah. So just like a little quick, like what made you jump into that, from, oil fields into the spa industry, just because it is so different?
Yeah, the oil field is just really demanding on your time. And in the area that I live, and I feel like in the tar sands in Canada too, you're gone for 3, 4, 5 months at a time. And that just gets to be pretty straining on your relationships. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that I wanted to be in my home more instead of out in the field living in a man camp.
Yeah. So, and I think you started off as, did you start off as esthetician or did you start as permanent makeup artist?
An esthetician. Yeah. I went to aesthetic school in 2008.
Yeah. And then you've added on permanent makeup artistry. I know you instruct that as well. So you got quite the, you got a nice amount of income streams coming in terms of your business. So when you first opened your spa up, the whole kind of idea of team culture, like when did it, at first I want to ask, like, when did it become important to you? But I think we first need to talk about like, what is team culture? Because I don't think a lot of spa owners in our industry or team members are familiar with that term. And it's just so important. So what does team culture mean to you? Like, how did you learn about that?
Yeah, I think team culture is just really like the environment that you are creating for your employees to work in every day, and making sure that that environment is employee centric, that it's focused not only on like the reputation and profitability of the business, but also the happiness and like joy that coming to your job every day brings your staff.
Mm-hmm. And, we all want that for our team members. Like nobody, as a spa owner, I think we essentially want that. That's what we envision when, we're thinking about opening up our spa business, but it can easily spiral out of control and not even really understand why. So when did it become important for you to really focus and prioritize team culture in your spa business?
Like before I even opened and I was solo, I knew that I wanted to have a team at some point, because solo was just not bringing me joy. And you have to say no to so many clients when you're so busy, when you're by yourself. And I'm really a yes person. So I was
working a lot.
Yeah. So I was like overworking myself, and also just like saying no to me was like not giving that person that opportunity to meet their skin health goals, like especially acne clients and things like that, that really desperately need that support. When you're by yourself, you can't possibly help everybody. So to me, building a team really meant that I would be able to reach more people and help more people. And in that sense, I also was going to be bringing estheticians on and training them and elevating like their, self-worth in their industry and their expertise and all that kind of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. So basically it wasn't like you hired a team and then things went haywire and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get this under control. It was, you were really clear at the get-go before you went from solo to team about, I want to make sure that my team culture is really healthy, very supportive before I'm actually hiring anybody.
Yeah, I was in a salon for like 9 months and then they closed and then I was by myself. But I did notice like in the salon, the things that I didn't like, and they were totally commission based. And, no real benefits or anything. Like I just saw the things I didn't really care for there. And I was seeing girls being driven from like that into the booth renting because like there wasn't really an advantage to being a part of that team other than building your clientele.
Right. Which is not really it's not really a team effort. Building my clientele is not a team effort.
Right, exactly.
It's an individual. I'm building my column. Your column doesn't matter. Your column doesn't matter. I'm building mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually hired you like 3 months before I even like hired my first employee, and you helped me build out my employee manual and kind of stuff like that. So I guess I never had that mistake time or whatever. I just really knew from the get-go that like other people have made mistakes. So
Well,
I'm gonna get off on the right foot if I can.
Absolutely. And you came from an industry like the oil fields where you got benefits, and the spa industry, that's not the norm. And yet our industry, like we're full of, women of childbearing ages, and there's not a lot of spas that offer any kind of benefits. They don't feel like they can afford it. And so they don't. So that whole piece about what's broken in the spa industry, about team culture, you touched on a bit about, the other place that I worked at, there's some things going on that I didn't really agree with, and I wanted to be different in my spa. But unfortunately, a lot of times as like spa owners are coming up the ranks as a service provider. So they've been in probably a toxic team culture and not even really realizing it, just realizing, oh, I'm not happy here. I can do better on my own. So, a lot of the stuff that I was experiencing with team culture before I got a handle on mine was just things like gossiping amongst the staff, not really about having that. It's about me, that entitlement. And it had to stop. If the business wants to move forward in terms of profitability and serving more people at a higher level, the team toxicity has to be like cut off right there for sure. Agreed. So, yeah. So before we hopped on I pressed record, I think you were talking a little bit about, I wanted you to expand on it. Like you're talking about how, in some of the Facebook groups that we're in, and that we're listening in on some of these conversations about team culture. Like we know it's about team culture, but it's about, we're listening to estheticians kind of a sense of entitlement about, I'm only getting this much, paid this much. Do you remember that part of our conversation?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I just see in the forums a lot, people who are fresh out of school, getting their first job. They put a dollar amount on it when like they're forgetting that you're getting experience. Mm-hmm. And that experience is very much has a monetary value. Anything that your employer trains you on is a certificate that you would have to pay for outside of that. And at the end of the day, like, having free time and not being like a booth renter and having to 100% like respond to every single message, when it comes in, all that kind of stuff. Like and also on top of that, like that 60% commission that was, kind of set as a standard in the 80s, like our taxes are 30% higher than they were then. And, there's all this other stuff happening and it just isn't realistic. And then other people in our industry keep on like
perpetuating it.
They do. And I'm just like, why are you doing that, man?
And it's just like, I look at this and I think, oh my gosh, you guys have not done your numbers. You don't, like, if you numbers do not lie, if you had actually done your cost per treatment, including your labor costs, you would see that you're actually, there's a reason why there's not enough money at the end of the month.
Yeah. And that's, when the pandemic started, all these people that, I knew that were booth renters, they were scrambling. They had no idea what they were paying themselves, how to get the PPP loans, like what numbers to base it off of. They don't have a pulse on it at all. They're totally like,
when they go in and do my service and I go home.
Balance accounting or whatever, like, oh, it looks like I have enough money, so we're good to go. Like, and then some of them aren't paying their taxes. There's all this stuff happening when someone goes out on their own without that like true business knowledge base. of even, you know, and in the forums, you always see like, oh, hey guys, I'm starting out. Does my price list look okay? I have no idea. What's your rent? I have no idea how much does your healthcare cost. I don't know what's your car payment. Like there's all these things in each person's individual business model that are going to set their rates. And if you don't know what that number is, then of course you're comparing your rates to your neighbors. When your neighbor might have a husband who pays for everything and they can charge $30 for Brazilian, but you are a single mom with 3 kids and 2 cars that you're paying for because one of your kids is 16. So you can't pay, you know, charge $30 for Brazilian. You have to charge 75 because you have to make your numbers make sense for your circumstance.
Yeah, it's a survival thing, not, you know, so that, you know, that's a lot of times when spa owners finally do figure out their cost per treatments is because they're literally hemorrhaging money, or like the business is just so out of control, they don't even know what's going on. That's usually where they come to me with. But, you know, even just doing your cost per treatment to know, you know, how much your labor is costing you to give a service is a huge eye opener in terms of what you've been doing for your team, how much you've been paying them, how you've been paying them. Like that whole commission model is so broken, paying straight commission, because it doesn't reward anything other than them doing the service. So I think both you and I are both on the same page when it comes to like straight commissions. It's like a hard no.
Yeah, I know. And like sometimes when I'm like talking to people about it, like it's really hard to not just like bash that instead of like, you know, just straight up talking about the positives of team-based pay and like having a good company culture. Yeah. And then it kind of ruins our mission statement almost, because we're just like, oh, you know, that's garbage, like whatever. So over the last couple years, I've been really trying to like learn to like rewrite my dialogue about it so that it's more like, all right, this is what like, for me personally, like, you know, the dollar sign, it's obviously important. Every business relies on like the amount of money they bring in. But for me, I take more pride in saying that like, you know, my girls all work 32-hour weeks. They only work 1 weekend a month. And they all have benefits and paid time off and retirement matching. Wow. So many people at, you know, when they first come into this industry, no retirement. Then they're 35 and they start planning. And it's like, I get these girls that are 19, 20 years old. And I'm like, all right, let's build this up for you. Like if someone would have done that for me when I was that age, I'd be retired like right now, you know? So like, I have made mistakes in my life. And I want like any little new esthetician that comes out of my team to like really be set up for success in our industry. And that doesn't always mean like teaching them how to run their own business. It means like building a work culture that gives them a career so they can have a life too, right?
And so let's talk about that. So, because essentially it's like a team system as far as culture goes. And, you know, it really does start at knowing your company values. Like what are your values, the values that you work by, the values that you live by. That's usually the kind of the first things that I work with spa owners, because that's really the core where everything has to come out of in terms of business development, is like, what are you truly in your heart of hearts passionate about? And when you're clear about those values, then it starts getting a lot easier to create that team culture, to create the sales goals, because everything has to funnel back into, does it support what we value? So when you like now your team culture system, I know that you've got, you know, you're clear about your values. What else do you like? How does that work? What do you do like as a new team member when they come on? What is your process to help kind of indoctrinate them into Nickel and Dodge culture and really set them up for success?
Yeah, everybody goes through like the same, you know, training, and everyone that works here is, we feel really safe letting anyone else that works here work on a client, because we know that we all have the same level of education. And we also know that like any of us that don't feel comfortable with something, we'll leave the room and go find someone else and be like, hey, do you want to come in here and get on this with me? Like, I feel like I need a little help on this. And the clients are cool with that because they feel like they have a whole team of people working for them. And it's not like in our industry, not to be vulgar, but like we pee on our clients. Like, that's my client. When they sit in your chair, it's like, oh, here's your esthetician. This is the only esthetician you're going to have for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to the clients either. Like, if someone calls out sick, I'll come in and cover a shift, or one of the other girls will pick up some extra hours. And the clients all know that we're team-based. We teach them that from the beginning. So then the clients feel comfortable when they walk in. Oh, hey, so-and-so called out, I'm going to take you today. Oh, great. I haven't seen you since the last time, I haven't seen you for 2 appointments. Like, everyone wants to catch up with everybody, and they know they're going to get the same results. And, the soap notes are really important for that. The training is really important for that. So yeah, they go through a training, and they have X amount of models, that
they have to, Then you test them after
I don't necessarily test them, but I do them, then they do them supervised, like 5 of each of those, and they do 25 clients on their own, and the client turns in like a review sheet.
Nice.
And then I evaluate that. So it's typically clients that have been with us before, and I like it that way, because then the clients feel like they're part of our training system too. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, hey, we got this new person. I want you to go to this person. Let me know when you come out if they do anything that's like different that you like. Maybe we can all learn how to do that, or if they do something that you didn't feel was really like, on par with our brand. Yeah. And then I can make sure to coach them, and I always tell the clients, like, if you ever leave here, like, the most important thing for me is that you let me know what you liked and what you didn't like, because I can't get better if I don't get your feedback.
True story. Very true. I think a lot of owners are scared to get feedback. They're scared to ask for the feedback. And you're so right. Like, it's just a reframe. Like, yeah, you might hear something you don't want to hear, but at least you have the opportunity to change it. So, coming at it from like, thank you so much. We can't change this unless we know, rather than getting defensive about it. And when a client does that and you respond in that positive way, it can build an exponential amount more trust. And, we could all do with more of that kind of in life and business. So, for those spa owners that are listening to that, if you have been afraid to do, ask for, like, do a follow-up call or anything like that, or even ask for the feedback, don't be afraid, because it's really just a learning tool for us to do better. Right. Yeah.
And it's definitely something that you have to train the clients on too, because a lot of clients will just like, not say anything at all. And then they'll leave and they just don't ever come back. And then you're like, oh, whatever. And you do a follow-up and they're like, oh no, everything was fine. Like, I just, whatever, and they don't give it to you. Yeah. So even when we do our first intake with someone, I tell them that, like, before we even do a service, I'm like, hey, communication is really important for me. You're paying for this time and this experience. So if there's anything that you don't enjoy, like, I need to know that. And if there's anything that you really do enjoy, I need to know that too. Yeah. And then we put it in the soap notes, right? Like, oh, this person doesn't like their foot massage, or, this person doesn't like hot towels. They only like ice globes, whatever it is. Yeah. Then the next person, and that's what builds the trust between the practitioners, is that person comes in, they don't even have to tell that person, the next time that they don't like a foot massage, they just don't do it.
Yeah. That's part of your team system, your team culture system. It is part of your, it's part of the protocol to always check, the client notes, right? It's part of the every day, it's part of the protocol to update client service notes. Because I think those are easy things to kind of get slack and lazy on with a team. And that's just one of those little tweaks that, like you said, build up more trust when everybody's communicating really clearly. And you don't have to tell the esthetician, you just put them in the client notes so that they're there for the next esthetician to
yeah, right. Yep. And if someone's out of town or whatever, and someone else has their client, then they don't feel like, oh, I have to wait an extra week for that service. Like, they can come in on their schedule or whatever, so that part, as the kind of person who owns a business, and my schedule is always changing, right? Like, obviously we experienced that with our meetup here. So I'm a client who wants to get in last minute, or I'm a client who, like, when I schedule an appointment, I typically like have that carved into my schedule and don't have time, next week to do it. Mm-hmm. So if someone calls out, like, it's really a benefit to the service provider. They don't feel any guilt or obligation to, like, be present when they're not here, or like, oh, they don't feel guilty for taking a 2-week vacation. Yeah. Because they know their clients are taken care of. But then for the clients too, it offers that same like flexibility to them that, oh, hey, it's cool. Like, so-and-so called out, so-and-so's you're going to keep your appointment, if you want to. And if you can't get in, or you have to, the client has to call out sick, you don't have to wait 6 weeks to reschedule.
Yeah.
Get in where you fit in, man. You feel better on Tuesday? Great. We got you.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, when you have that standardized training, like new people come in, you have that standardized training, nobody is better than that. And, it's not like I've got so much experience, I don't need to go through your training. I would imagine that would be a red flag for you, that you probably wouldn't even hire the person if they're like, oh no, I've got like 25 years experience, I don't need to go through your training. Oh yes, you do. Because, Nickel and Dodge, we have a standard of care that we promise to give, and that's what our clients expect. So
yeah, I actually just hired a girl that has like more in spa experience than I do. And she was like, man, I can't believe how much I've learned during this training. Like she has 12 years of, spa management experience in the UK and all this stuff. And she's like, I learned something new every day here. Like, this is such a great training program. Like, she really loves it. So it's like, when you find those people that fit in with that, it helps me too, because of how much experience she does have.
Totally.
I'm like, oh, great. Like, okay, well, you've learned a lot, but like, what did you think kind of sucked about it? Like, let's make that better.
Yeah. It's like, did you see any places of Argus
for sure
polish up here? Absolutely. Oh, that's really cool. And, I think when, in terms of team culture, having clear values and constantly nurturing them, in team meetings, and just really how you behave, how the team behaves, how leadership behaves. But, just having that, all these pieces together, clear values, that helps you in the recruiting and hiring process, because it makes it a lot easier to see the red flags. A lot of times when spa owners, they're like, I thought I really vetted them, only to find out, a month in, that they're lazy and really intrinsically like my. So I really do feel that setting your team culture up like this with these systems and the structure, it's kind of like when you have kids like to know where their boundaries are. They're not going to tell you they like them because they don't really, but they like knowing where the edges are, because that is safe for them in this place, right? And I really feel from my experience, not having team systems and then creating and having team systems, and then all of a sudden everybody was just kind of moving in the business better, had better attitudes. It was because they felt safer. They knew what I expected as leadership. They knew what was expected of them, from like service to attitudes to like productivity to all of it. Although it is a lot of work to set up your systems and to constantly nurture your team culture, the teams really like it. They feel safe in it. Has that been experienced?
Yeah, definitely. There's like a sense of direction for them. You know what I mean? And there's like an end goal. Like in our system, it's really similar to like probably all the other team-based ones you have, like eventually you turn into like someone who helps train other people. Like there's like there's still progress, and like a way to earn raises and a way to earn more money and stuff like that. And COVID really jammed me up last year, and then again this year, obviously. Like that's not a unique situation, but my goal is, once we get past this, I really want to set our cash flow plan up for the year. And then if we meet that by like a certain day in December, I want to have like 10 days of paid off over the holidays for meeting that the yearly goal a little early. Right. Yeah. And I just we work in the best industry in the world, in my opinion. And some of the company culture that we have in our industry is what ruins it. So I would love to have 10 days off over the holidays. And I don't feel like I'm going to lose any clients over that. They can buy their gift cards online, whatever. But wouldn't it be great for like my whole team to be able to like spend that whole time with their family and their little kids and stuff like that? And that's, everybody says like, oh, I want to be $1 million company, like whatever. I said that too when I started. And then I realized over time, running my numbers, that I'm much more proud being, a $780,000 company that provides all this freedom and benefits to my employees and takes care of them and nurtures them mentally and all that, mentors each one of them in the way they need to be mentored, than I am being the kind of person who like makes a certain amount of money.
Yeah. And, I don't think, in our industry, it doesn't really attract like, I'm going to open a spa and make $1 million. Like it's so hard to do that anyways. But, for the most part, I think we get into this industry because there's a real big part of our hearts that wants to make people feel better and, just to have to feel less stressed, all that stuff. But yet the workers in the spa industry and owners are often like worked literally to death. They're burnt out. And so I love the fact that, you're prioritizing time off, because all of that stuff can be planned out with enough time in advance. So, if your spa closes between Christmas and New Year's, as long as that expectation has been managed with clients and your sales goals you can still hit your sales goals. They just have to be a bit bigger each month. But what a wonderful thing to be able to share with your team, for them to be home with their families, or just have 10 days off between Christmas and New Year's.
Right, like start the new year fresh. And
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So is that going to be able to happen, or is that
not this year, but I'm going to work it in next year. So just with everything like unknown this year, I didn't even work it into our cash flow, but I'm like, all right, next year we're doing it. And then I had it worked in 2020. And then obviously COVID hit, so that kind of like ruined everything. But I did, I mean, I know how to work my numbers and stuff. So that's like the one benefit that I have. But yeah, it's pretty nice. And then actually, like during COVID, we started an online store too. And I've invested quite a bit of money into marketing that. Okay. So that is starting to bring in some money. So that is one thing that I'm working on. Like I only take clients 2 days a week. So I can work on this other stuff that brings in revenue to the company. So then my employees can actually get a higher hourly wage based on like that, sales on that as well, versus like just what they are working in the service room, Yeah,
absolutely. And that, on the topic of COVID, that's, where I saw a lot of opportunity was in like the virtual skin coaching. Our industry has been begging for easier work for decades. I mean, it is hard work being in the treatment room all the time. Like, you're exhausted, which is why, you've gone to a 32-hour work week for your team, because doing
I don't want to get burnt out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And if you're exhausted like that, then you can't give, that to the clients. No. And then their experience isn't really that great either.
Yeah. So that whole kind of online skin coaching revenue stream allows your team to work, not have to physically work as hard, but still generate really great sales for you guys. But it's all like all of these, different types of services and e-commerce, they all take time to kind of, create the system and tweak it and getting it run optimally.
Yeah, that's a struggle for sure.
Just find the time to get on, do all those little detail-y things in your admin time. So before we sign off, what would you say would be like, and I didn't kind of prep you for this little question, but I'm curious if you had a leadership tip for spa owners in terms of team culture. Like if somebody were to come to you and just say, oh my gosh, my team is a hot mess, I don't even know where to start, what would you say to them?
I would say to ask them like why they're a hot mess, and then listen to the answer. I think that's one thing with me, is if I notice that they're kind of like off a little bit, I always ask them like, hey, let's have a team meeting. Like, you guys can bring stuff. Like, we are truthfully a team. Like, I might be the leader, but I'm like the chaos controller, right? Like, I'm the leader because I come in and I recognize when things aren't running smoothly. I recognize when we need to like do certain things. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, they are in the treatment room every single day. And if they're not happy, I need to ask them what's going to make them happy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And those kinds of conversations don't need to be contentious. No. They can come from a place from the heart, like even having a one-on-one, like, hey, you seem kind of off this past couple of weeks. Is everything okay? Is there anything going on at work here that I can support you with? You know what I mean? So just starting the conversation like that, rather than, coming in hot, all pissed off, like, why didn't you close this way last night? Blah, blah, blah. And this wasn't done. And what's going on? And, getting really angry about that never, nobody feels safe to share what's actually going on.
Yeah, for sure. And I have like really bad tone. I've always had a really bad tone. So it's something that I have to really carefully like curate that experience for my staff, because like, yes, I do come in and I'm like, what the hell, you guys, I haven't swept in like 5 days. Like what is going on? You know? And then it's like, I look at the books, I'm like, okay, they were really, really busy. Like everyone's probably burnt out.
Yeah.
So then I'll come down, you know, at a night and I'll clean up the stuff. And I'm like, hey guys, like, don't forget when you do have some downtime, like these are the tasks that need to be done. And I don't know, you know, I'm sure every salon owner thinks this, but once you can really wrap your head around it and like get your staff to get it too, when you look at your salon, you have to look at it as a client. Like when you're looking around, if you were someone here for a service, would this impress you? And if the answer is no, then make it impressive. And if the answer is yes, then go eat a cheeseburger. I don't care. Do whatever you want when you have downtime. You know what I mean? But like your first job always is to make sure that like we have a company and a physical property that brings us pride.
Absolutely. I love that. Like, would you, like, if you're looking around and you're a guest, or would you be like, wow, this is awesome. I love that. You know, it just helps them have their own critical thinking about how to discern what might need changing.
Yeah. You know, and it's that old saying, I think, and I tell the girls this all the time, like, definitely there's still that, I don't know, judgment of our industry, you know, like the grease girl, like the beauty school dropout, like, oh, this is just a bunch of idiots who go to college, you know, whatever. But like, I don't feel that way about our industry. Like I know that in the past 10 years, we've gotten much more science-based. We are treating acne better than dermatologists in most cases. And we treat the clients from the inside out and help coach them in like their lifestyle, you know? But at the end of the day, like, even if you're a garbage man, like you have to take pride in like being a garbage man and be like the garbage man who wins like garbage man of the year. You know what I mean? So like, if you're gonna be an esthetician and be in this industry, like you have to take pride in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your expertise and your knowledge and your experience about team culture. For other spa owners that want to kind of check out things, where can they find you? What website, social media?
Yeah, for sure. We have everything listed at www.nickelanddodge.com.
Okay, awesome. And they can find your social accounts on there too.
Yep, spelled like the money in the ball.
Money in the ball.
N-I-C-K-E-L, yeah, D-O-D-G-E.
All right, thank you so much. And maybe I will catch up with you maybe in a year and talk about team culture again, because it's a great topic and one I think that needs a lot more attention to it.
For sure.